The Demon King versus the Saiyan God. Before I hop in this video of the breakdown of what I thought while drawing Meliodas versus Goku, please do me a favor and leave your own thoughts on my drawing in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also make sure you hit the little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up guys, I got the pencil and here we are to break down what I thought of this story of a sketch. Now, essentially, I've actually had this idea ever since I started drawing for the channel, which is ironic because considering the name was always like the pencil, I should have been drawing from round start. But there are a ton of videos on my channel where I don't actually draw in. So, I mean, I always got a pencil. Like, if you ever catch me lacking in real life, you will find me with a pencil. But still, regardless of that, I've actually always wanted to do this. So, if you are interested in this, ask. I guess literally every single drawing on my channel is fair game. Like, whether it be an Is Busted drawing, whether it be a versus battle drawing, whether it be a chapter review drawing, whether it be any kind of drawing, it's fair game. But this is one of my favorite drawings I've legitimately ever done, period, point blank. So I wanted to do it first. So let's get right into this breakdown. So my actual inspiration when drawing this was two images in particular. One was the image of Goku when he was fighting Jiren, that one iconic shot where Goku weaves and, well, Jiren, obviously, if my man got weaved, he obviously was avoided. And that particular image is actually from episode 130 of the Dragon Ball Super anime. It's a shot that's actually heavily mirrored in the game when Goku's using his level 3 to fire off a Kamehameha, and I'm pretty sure the shot that I used the Kamehameha in is actually in another drawing that I'll talk about in the future. However, referring to this specific drawing, the reason I chose this one in particular is because when I was going into drawing this fight, I wanted to cover the two most important aspects of it, at least in my mind, and it's that Goku was going to be on the defensive while Meliodas was going to be on the offensive. And notably, the shot that I actually got Meliodas from isn't from any real fight. It's from when he's alone and goes to split the mountain with a twig. And the reason I chose that shot in particular is because it really portrays Meliodas as a powerful aggressor. It seems like he's coming in and he's trying to do the good damage. Meanwhile, Goku's able to avoid it. It covers both the offensive nature of Meliodas that he carries throughout the fight and Goku's more defensive nature that he carries on throughout the fight. Now, why do I love this drawing so much? Mainly because it's one of the biggest challenges I've ever had. Because coming up with that very idea took a while. Notably, whenever I go to draw versus battles and stuff like that, I typically think of what best image would portray the level of balance to a battle that I feel like a battle should have, and or the most interesting way I could draw a battle. Sometimes there are joke battles like Escanor versus King, where I simply drew Escanor's gigantic fist about to slam King in the face because I didn't think King stood a chance. But in an equal stats battle between Meliodas and Goku, I felt like there should be some sort of balance here, some sort of offset in this, and that's why you don't actually see either of the characters damage within the entire drawing that I did. They just have detailing on them. And speaking of detailing, this is one of the most... See, is it weird to say it's the most detailed? It's one of the most detailed drawings I did, and ironically enough, this drawing is actually one of the shortest I did, only being, let me see, let me make sure, let me not get my numbers incorrect here, let me look at this full time, 1 hour and 17 minutes and 3 seconds. That's how long it took me to create what I consider one of my best drawings, period, point blank. And the thing is, those two basic images were not all I could have, because I wanted to also put Meliodas in his strongest form. And if you remember the initial drawing with Meliodas, he was not in true magic. The image that I took Meliodas from as a reference comes from chapter 51, page 25. So obviously, this man is not out here wielding his true magic form. So I had to somehow take the inspiration of that, the basic image of the swinging of the twig alongside the abilities of the true magic form. Now, notably, this isn't the first image I decided to come up with. The first image I wanted to draw was the two fists clashing, which would have been based off the image of Goku versus Jiren in the Tournament of Power when those two fists clashed. However, I felt like that was unorthodox for Meliodas the swordsman to be doing, even though Meliodas also is a hand-to-hand combatant, and I feel like that would be a little bit disloyal to Ultra Instinct, especially the way it's portrayed within the anime, where it's a much more evasive and then attack, while the weakness of Goku is still the fact that he will clash and hand-to-hand grapple. I didn't want any real weakness to be showed in this image, so that idea actually got scrapped after a little while. Then the next image I was actually thinking of going on to was the two clashing, but you know how Goku empowered his finger against Trunks and managed to wield against Trunks' sword. But the reason I didn't go with that image is because, one, is a weakness of mine, especially a year ago, going on words when I actually did this drawing. I can't draw fingers. I can draw fingers with extensive reference, but even then, I don't think I draw fingers to the relative degree that I thought the fight would actually still look good, and I feel like it'd be a bit too focused in on the hands and or sword, and I didn't really want Lost Vein and or Goku's finger to be the focal point of the shot. I wanted Goku and Meliodas to be the focal point of the shot. So then I went on to an even more different idea, which would have been Meliodas still on the attack and Goku still on the defense, but it'd be Trillion Dark and Goku evading all of them. But the main issue then is the idea that it's weird to say Goku would become too small with Trillion Dark, and so would Meliodas. The page would essentially just be a bunch of ink, and it wouldn't look very good to me. So I ended up scrapping that idea. So when I finally came upon this idea, I was like, okay, great, perfect. I have an idea for how I can actually properly portray the battle. But then the secondary issue kicked in. I had no idea how I was going to draw it, because the thing is, I actually struggle, fun fact, little artist thing here, I kind of suck at drawing anime. And I mean literal anime. Like, I can do manga just fine because it's usually in black and white, and the detailing there is a lot more easy for me to recognize. But the specific shot for MUI Goku is covered in a lot of bloom effects. It's covered in a lot of color and gradients and different shading, and I want to mimic the shading that it had there. But notably, I do a lot of my drawings in black and white. 1, because color is expensive. 2, because I'm not good with color. 3, because I'm impatient with color. So none of that was an option to me, despite me likely having the artistic materials at the time. I don't remember what I did have. I know I have the artistic materials now to possibly color this in, but at the time I didn't want to do that. It made me, I wouldn't say it forced me to think outside the box, but it made me get a lot more creative with what I wanted to do, because I wanted to portray the different shading everywhere. But when you're working with black and white only, it sort of makes it a lot more difficult for you to actually logically work with shading, because with the kind of markers I use, which are just fine tip Sharpie pens, as you can probably tell, there's not much gradients you can do. It's either the ink's there or it's not there, unless the marker itself is dying, but even then, that's completely uncontrollable, and I'd rather not risk that, especially at that point where I didn't even know about that. Like, the whole idea of me using nearly dead markers for different levels of shading in black and white was an idea that I came up with super recently, like legitimately 3 months ago, and even then I still don't like doing it that much because of how inconsistent markers can be, where sometimes you'll get that nice little power boost of ink, like Jiren at the end of Tournament of Power, and then fight back and suddenly have a whole deep splatted out image. So it's super risky for me. So when it came to drawing Goku in that very scene with the reference, while I had the shape down, while I had everything else down, you can literally see it in the drawing. You can see me not perfectly, because I'll admit I did mess up, but still in the sketch form, I managed to start with Goku's arm and then build up all the way to his torso, leave his head for last because I considered that to be the most difficult part, and then I was perfectly fine. Then I drew entirely to Meliodas. And the thing is with Meliodas is that while I look super confident drawing him, even in the pencil state where I'm going like just one shot going, this is one because I was actually working on a very limited time period in that space. I'm pretty sure I had to get the video up the very next day before I went somewhere, so I had to have a whole bunch of stuff pre-recorded. And 2 is literally because I just didn't really know what else to do. I'm working essentially blind here. I had to change an outfit that looks nothing like the true magic form into the true magic form. That's why his wings are actually comparatively smaller than what they actually would be if it was drawn to scale. But I had to somehow fit in Meliodas' actual body within the shot, alongside his head, alongside the wings, and I wanted to get the hands in there since they're a big part of the true magic form as well. Meliodas was honestly the easier of the two, though, mainly because his outfit is mostly white. Meanwhile, Goku has a lot of skin tone gradients. He has a whole ton of different colors within his hair, and he has the different levels of detail in his musculature. Meanwhile, Meliodas, he was much more an amorphous blob that I could shape a lot easier than Goku, simply because Goku was a highly more defined image. Meanwhile, I was going with what little shading Nakaba provided me with the true magic form, and if you look at any of the true magic form drawings, there's not much shading at all to go off of. It's very much shapes that Nakaba put together, and that's good. It's a good simplistic design that's easily for me to replicate. However, in terms of making it look interesting, that's where the problems came in. So as you can see in the drawing, the thing I went to replace the shading problem, since I couldn't shade, I literally couldn't figure out an idea. Mid-drawing, I decided to stick to a little miniature version of cross-hatching. Just I hate to say it, without the crossing for the most part. So what you'll see throughout the drawing is me drawing the little lines. And the thing that the lines do is that they sort of add depth by tricking the eye, by making it look deeper. I'm not exactly sure the artistic terms or reasoning behind this, but while you're drawing something like this, the best way to trick your, I almost said opponent, the best way to trick your viewer into believing something that has depth is by varying the amount of stuff that's in one area. So if you, at least this is what I've learned through sheer repetition. I'll admit, I've taken one art class in my entire life that wasn't mandatory for school, and I didn't learn much about drawing for mandatory in school. That was a lot of painting and stuff like that. So in terms of my understanding of knowledge, it's just something I've noticed myself because it tricks me when I do it. When I add the lines there, it makes the image look like it has more depth than it does, while at the same time mimicking shading and at the same time acting as sort of muscular detail. It's super weird, and I don't exactly get how it works. So if any of my superior artists in the comment section would mind explaining to your boy, please do. But in that sense, it allowed me to mimic all the shading that Goku had, while at the same time emphasizing the muscle detail that he had, while at the same time differentiating his hair, which was a lifesaver. And it also allowed me to add a lot of extra dimension to Meliodas, because the main thing you'll notice, even by the end terms of the drawing, is that Meliodas actually doesn't have much detail on him until I started getting to the lines, because by adding in the lines, I made his hair look thicker, I made it look a lot more developed. The strong contrast between his wings and the depth caused by the lines in between them makes it look a lot better. The reason I love this drawing so much is because it was literally an evolution of my art style live on video. Like, you can literally see me learning more and more as the video progresses, and it's something that ended up helping me a lot. That's why you see a whole ton of cross-hatching in my videos, even if it's cross-hatching or not. Like, the ability to make lines go over each other to add more depth and at the same time add more color, it's a cheat code, essentially. It allows me to working smarter, not harder, essentially. That's what I love the most. And the main thing that I truly, truly am proud of is the slight differences that are caused by the simple fact of nothing else. I'm just kidding. No, the thing is, I love the way that these two end up looking at each other. So a main thing that I struggle with is directing eyes. The reason my avatar always wears glasses is because, one, I suck at drawing eyes without a reference, and two, I can't necessarily figure out how to make eyes work in my art style unless I make them blank. And that blank eyes are hard to direct. And if you're looking at the original drawing that I took Meliodas from, that man isn't looking the same way he's looking here. So how did I figure that out? That was essentially me, like, I just ignored the second part of his eye. Like, notably, if you look at the original drawing, Meliodas' eye is centered. It's looking directly at the camera. It's looking directly at the focal point. It's the center of the entire shot. Meanwhile, I don't want that to be the center of the entire shot. I want both of their heads to be the center of the entire shot, which is why Meliodas' arms are there to actually focus you in towards the center more so than worrying about the barriers. And the reason why Goku's arm curls around. The main reason this image works so well in my mind is because thanks to how Meliodas' magic arms and Goku's leg and arm body flow in, it makes you lock in towards the center. And you get this really cool image, or this, like, I wouldn't say mental trick, but like kind of an illusion where you get to see Meliodas locking eyes with Kakarot, and Kakarot supposedly looking at Meliodas, because it's weird, right? Because Meliodas, by taking out the second part of his eye, it sort of removes the idea that he's looking towards the center, and it makes it look like he's looking at something directly in front of him. And since Goku doesn't have any eyes, you don't have to worry about where he's looking. You can just guess based off his pose that he's looking at Meliodas. It creates this really cool moment of eye contact, and one of the main things I want to portray here is that sense of balance. And two balanced rivals who are going head to head would lock eyes. They would take respect for one another. They would acknowledge each other's presence. This wouldn't be two men just being like, yeah, let me not lock eyes with you and just beat you behind. It would be the two of them locking eyes. I wanted to portray balance in this drawing while still having a solid center point, and that led to the heads being the center of the entire shot. Now, the thing is, Meliodas is swinging Lost Vein here, but I think I didn't make that clear enough. Like, upon retrospect, if there's one thing I had to say, it's hard to tell the difference between Meliodas' arm and his legs due to the wings and just the way, see, that's the main issue with the blank nature of the true magic form. Even by the end of the drawing, it's hard to tell that Meliodas is swinging his arm because of how well it blends into the leg, because the arm is just a slight differentiator. It's really hard to tell. And while the line is supposed to definitely guide you to where it would be, thanks to Goku's sash, is almost covering up the line, and I didn't want to draw even further because that would have interrupted the bubbles and the sparkles. And obviously, I add the bubbles and the sparkles just to fill up the entire space while still adding access points, because look where most of them are, in between the two, and look where that leads you to the focal point of both of them staring at each other. There's a ton in this drawing that like really makes me enjoy it and is legit still one of the favorites I've ever done. There are others that I actually like. Yeah, there are others I like more than this drawing. Some I've done recently, some I've done even Nah, I think this is where the start where like I truly was like, wow, I'm actually doing decent as an artist. I was able to do this. This was the start of it all. But that's all I have to say for now. If you want me to go more in depth on this drawing or answer any questions about it, just ask me in the comment section down below. If there are any other drawings you're interested in seeing me break down and explain the focal points of the drawings, how difficult it was for me to draw. And speaking of, I think I'll give this little series a rating system of how difficult it was to draw. And despite this short time period of this drawing, I give this drawing a 9 out of 10 in difficulty, simply because I had so many phases going through it and trying to figure out what it was. And the end result is something I'm still not entirely proud of, but still completely happy with. This is a solid 9 out of 10 difficulty rating, a 10 out of 10 in terms of what I enjoy, and I please want to hear your thoughts about the drawing and what you think of the drawing itself in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with a Pencil, writing off.